Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues and fellow travelers on this extraordinary journey we call life, imagine, if you will, a world where your success is not measured by how you stack up against others, but by how much you've grown. A world where the only person you need to outdo is the person you were yesterday. This isn't just a fanciful idea. It's a transformative mindset that has the power to revolutionize your life. And it's the very essence of our message today. The only competition you have is you. As I stand before you, I'm reminded of a story that perfectly encapsulates this principle. It's the story of Sarah, a young woman who always saw herself as unremarkable. In school, she was neither the top student nor the most popular. In her career, she wasn't the fastest climber or the most innovative thinker. Sarah lived her life constantly comparing herself to others, always feeling that she came up short. But one day, everything changed for Sarah. She attended a seminar much like this one, where she heard a simple yet profound message. The only person you need to be better than is the person you were yesterday. These words struck a chord deep within Sarah's soul. She realized that all her life, she had been playing a game she could never win, the game of being better than everyone else. From that day forward, Sarah made a conscious decision to shift her focus. Instead of comparing herself to her colleagues, friends, or the idealized versions of success she saw in the media, she started competing with herself. She set personal goals, celebrated her own progress, and found joy in her own growth. The transformation was remarkable. Within a year, Sarah had learned a new language, something she'd always wanted to do but never thought she could accomplish. She ran her first marathon, not to beat anyone else's time, but to prove to herself that she could do it. She even started a small side business, turning her hobby into a source of joy and extra income. The most beautiful part? As Sarah focused on her own growth, she became an inspiration to others without even trying. Her colleagues noticed her newfound confidence and positivity. Her friends were inspired by her perseverance and started setting their own personal goals without realizing it. Sarah had not only transformed her own life, but had also become a catalyst for change in her community. Sarah's story is not unique. It's a testament to the power of self-competition, and it's a journey that each and every one of you can embark upon today. In our modern world, competition is often seen as the cornerstone of progress and success. From a young age, we're taught that life is a race, a constant struggle to be better than those around us. We compare our grades in school, our salaries at work, our relationships, even our social media followers. We're conditioned to believe that our worth is determined by how we measure up to our peers, our colleagues, even our friends and family. But I ask you, have you ever truly won that race? Has there ever been a point where you've looked around and said, "That's it, I've beaten everyone. I can stop now"? Of course not, because that finish line is an illusion. It's a mirage that keeps moving further away the closer you think you're getting. Think about it. No matter how successful you become, there will always be someone with more money, a bigger house, a more prestigious job title. There will always be someone who seems to have it all together while you're struggling to keep your head above water. It's an endless, exhausting cycle that leaves us feeling inadequate and unfulfilled. I'm reminded of a conversation I once had with the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. On paper, this person had it all, wealth, but in a moment of vulnerability, he confessed to me, "I've spent my entire life climbing the ladder of success, only to realize that it was leaning against the wrong wall." Despite all his achievements, he felt empty, always chasing the next big thing, always comparing himself to others who seemed to have more. This is the trap of external competition. It's a game you can never truly win because the goalposts are always moving. It's a mindset that robs you of joy, of satisfaction, of the ability to appreciate your own journey and growth. But here's the liberating truth, and that external competition matters. Not one bit, because the only competition that truly matters, the only race worth running, is the one against yourself. When you shift your focus from competing with others to competing with yourself, something magical happens. Suddenly, the pressure lifts. The anxiety of constant comparison fades away. You're no longer bound by other people's definitions of success or trapped by societal expectations. Instead, you're free to define your own path, to set your own goals, and to measure your progress by the only yardstick that truly matters: how far you've come from where you started. Think about it. When you wake up each morning, you have a choice. You can choose to be a better version of yourself than you were yesterday. You can choose to push a little harder, to learn a little more, to show a little more kindness and compassion. This is what self-competition is all about. It's about constantly striving to improve, not for the sake of surpassing others, but for the sheer joy of personal growth and self-discovery. Let me share with you the story of Mark, a middle-aged man who had always struggled with his weight. For years, Mark had tried every diet and exercise program out there, always comparing himself to the fit models he saw in advertisements. Each time he failed to achieve their level of fitness, he felt more discouraged, more hopeless. But then Mark had an epiphany. He realized that he didn't need to look like anyone else. He just needed to be healthier than he was the day before. So he started small. On day 1, he walked for just 5 minutes. The next day, he walked for 6. He didn't compare his progress to anyone else's. He simply focused on doing a little bit more, being a little bit better than he was the day before. Slowly but surely, Mark's health began to improve. He had more energy, he slept better, and yes, he even lost weight. But more importantly, he gained confidence and a sense of control over his life. Mark's journey wasn't about achieving a certain weight or fitting into a particular clothing size. It was about becoming a better version of himself every single day. This is the power of self-competition. It turns the focus inward, allowing you to appreciate your own unique journey. It celebrates progress over perfection, effort over outcome. When you compete with yourself, every day becomes an opportunity for victory. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds great, but how do I actually do it? How do I shift my focus from external competition to self-competition? The answer lies in self-awareness. To compete with yourself effectively, you need to know yourself deeply. You need to understand your strengths and weaknesses, your passions and fears, your goals and your roadblocks. This level of self-awareness doesn't come easily. It requires honest self-reflection, a willingness to face uncomfortable truths, and the courage to be vulnerable with yourself. But let me tell you, the rewards are immeasurable. When you truly know yourself, you can set goals that align with your values and aspirations. You can identify areas for improvement that truly matter to you, not just areas where society says you should improve. You can celebrate your progress in a way that's meaningful and fulfilling. Consider the story of Emma, a young professional who always felt she needed to conform to others' expectations. She pursued a career in finance because it was what her parents wanted, even though her true passion lay in the arts. Emma was successful by external standards, as she had a high-paying job and an impressive title. But inside, she felt unfulfilled and disconnected from her true self. It wasn't until Emma took a step back and really examined her own desires and values that she realized she was living someone else's dream. Through journaling, meditation, and honest conversations with herself, Emma gained the self-awareness to recognize that her happiness lay in pursuing her artistic passions. Making the switch wasn't easy. Emma faced skepticism from her family and friends, and she had moments of self-doubt. But because she had done the hard work of getting to know herself, she had the courage to persevere. Today, Emma runs a successful graphic design business. She may not make as much money as she did in finance, but she's happier, more fulfilled, and more authentically herself than ever before. Emma's story illustrates the transformative power of self-awareness. When you know yourself, truly know yourself, you can set authentic goals and pursue a life that aligns with your values and passions. So I challenge you, starting today, to embark on a journey of self-discovery. Take time each day to reflect on your thoughts, your actions, your feelings, keep a journal, meditate, or simply spend some quiet time in contemplation. What truly matters to me? What are my core values? What brings me joy and fulfillment? What are my strengths and weaknesses? What fears are holding me back? Get to know yourself as you would a dear friend. Be curious about your own thoughts and behaviors. Observe yourself without judgment, with the compassionate interest of a scientist studying a fascinating subject. This self-awareness is the foundation of effective self-competition. It's what allows you to set meaningful goals, to recognize your own progress, and to find fulfillment in your personal growth journey. Once you've developed a strong sense of self-awareness, the next step is to set personal benchmarks. These are not arbitrary goals imposed from the outside, but meaningful milestones that reflect your personal journey. Remember, in the race against yourself, you're not trying to be better than anyone else. You're striving to be better than you were before. So your benchmark should reflect this. Maybe your goal is to read one more book this month than you did last month. Perhaps it's to shave a minute off your running time, to learn a new skill, or to practice patience in challenging situations. Whatever it is, make sure it's personal, meaningful, and aligned with your values. Let's take the example of Alex, a shy introvert who always felt overshadowed by his more outgoing colleagues. In the past, Alex might have set a goal like become the top salesperson in the company, a goal that not only didn't align with his personality, but also pitted him against his coworkers. But after embracing the mindset of self-competition, Alex set a different kind of goal. He decided to challenge himself to speak up at least once in every team meeting. This was a personal benchmark that pushed Alex out of his comfort zone, but was entirely within his control. It didn't depend on being better than anyone else. It was simply about Alex becoming a more confident version of himself. Week by week, Alex pushed himself to contribute in meetings. Some days were harder than others, but slowly he began to find his voice. His colleagues started to take notice, appreciating his thoughtful insights. More importantly, Alex noticed the change in himself. He felt more confident, more engaged at work, and prouder of his contributions. The beautiful thing about personal benchmarks is that they're entirely within your control. You're not at the mercy of external factors or other people's performances. Your success depends solely on your own efforts and commitment. When setting your own personal benchmarks, consider making them specific and measurable. Instead of being more productive, try complete one important task before checking emails each morning. Sure, they're challenging but achievable. Your benchmark should push you out of your comfort zone, but not be so daunting that they discourage you. Align them with your values and long-term goals. Each benchmark should be a stepping stone towards the person you want to become. Focus on actions rather than outcomes. You have more control over practice Spanish for 20 minutes daily than become fluent in Spanish by the end of the year. Set both short-term and long-term benchmarks. This allows you to celebrate small wins while working towards bigger goals. Review and adjust regularly as you grow and change. Your benchmarks should evolve too. Remember, the goal isn't to set perfect benchmarks. It's to create targets that motivate you to grow and improve. Don't be afraid to adjust your benchmarks as you go along. The ability to reassess and adapt is itself a valuable skill in your journey of self-competition. Now let's talk about something that many of us fear: failure. In a world focused on external competition, failure is often seen as the ultimate defeat. But when you're competing with yourself, failure becomes something entirely different. It becomes an opportunity for growth. Think about it. Every time you fail to meet one of your personal benchmarks, you learn something valuable about yourself, you gain insight into your limits, your challenges, and areas where you need to improve. This information is gold. It's the fuel that powers your personal growth engine. Let me tell you about Jamal, a budding entrepreneur. Jamal had always dreamed of starting his own business, but he was paralyzed by the fear of failure. He saw other successful entrepreneurs and thought, I could never be as good as them. What if I fail and everyone's... But then Jamal learned about the concept of self-competition and the value of embracing failure. And he realized that every successful entrepreneur had faced failures along their journey. The difference was in how they perceived and responded to those. So Jamal decided to reframe his thinking. Instead of seeing failure as a final judgment on his abilities, he chose to view it as feedback, valuable information that could help him improve and grow. With this new mindset, Jamal finally took the plunge and started his business. And yes, he faced setbacks. His first product launch didn't go as planned. He made mistakes in his financial projections. He had days where he questioned whether he was cut out for entrepreneurship. But instead of letting these setbacks defeat him, Jamal embraced them as learning opportunities. Each failure taught him something new about business, about his market, and about himself. He kept a failure journal where he documented what went wrong, and more importantly, what he learned from each experience. Over time, Jamal's business began to thrive, not because he never failed, but because he learned how to fail forward. Each setback made him more resilient, more knowledgeable, and ultimately, more successful. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's a crucial part of success. When you're competing with yourself, failure isn't a dead end. It's a detour that provides new insights and opportunities for growth. So I urge you, embrace your failures. Celebrate them even, because each failure is a stepping stone on your path to becoming the best version of yourself. It's evidence that you're pushing your boundaries, that you're daring greatly, that you're fully engaged in the exhilarating process of self-improvement. There are some ways you can reframe failure in your own lives. Analyze your failures objectively. What went wrong? What could you have done differently? What will you do next time? Focus on the effort, not just the outcome. Did you give it your all? What did you learn in the process? Use failure as a guide. Let it point you towards areas where you need to improve or learn more. Share your failures. Be open about your setbacks with others. It can help destigmatize failure, and you might gain valuable insights or support. Celebrate the attempt. The fact that you tried is itself a victory over complacency and fear. Remember, in the journey of self-competition, there is no true failure. There are only lessons, growth, and continuous improvement. One of the most beautiful aspects of competing with yourself is the joy of recognizing your own progress. When you're constantly comparing yourself to others, it's easy to lose sight of how far you've come. But when your focus is internal, every step forward becomes a cause for celebration. Did you face a fear today that you've been avoiding? Celebrate that courage. Did you show kindness in a situation where you would have previously lost your temper? That's growth worth acknowledging. Did you stick to your exercise routine even when you didn't feel like it? Give yourself a pat on the back. These might seem like small victories, but they're the building blocks of profound personal transformation. By acknowledging and celebrating these moments of progress, you're reinforcing positive behaviors and motivating yourself to keep pushing forward. Let me share with you the story of Lena, a working mother who always felt she was falling short in every area of her life. She wasn't advancing in her career as quickly as her colleagues. Her house wasn't as tidy as her neighbors, and she couldn't volunteer at her kids' school as much as some other parents. Lena was constantly comparing herself to others and always feeling like she was coming up short. But then Lena discovered the power of celebrating personal progress. She started keeping a victory journal where she wrote down one thing each day that represented progress for her, no matter how small. Some days her victory was making it to work on time despite a chaotic morning. Other days it was having a meaningful conversation with her child or learning a new skill at work. At first, Lena felt silly celebrating such small things, but as the days went by, she began to notice a change. She felt more positive, more motivated. She started to see progress where before she had only seen shortcomings. One day, Lena's boss called her into his office. To her surprise, he commended her on her improved performance and positive attitude. Lena realized that by focusing on her own progress and celebrating her small victories, she had become more productive and pleasant to work with, without even consciously trying to impress anyone. Lena's story shows us the power of acknowledging and celebrating our own progress. When we shift our focus from comparing ourselves to others to recognizing our own growth, we not only feel better about ourselves, but often perform better too. This positive reinforcement creates a virtuous cycle of growth and achievement. As you embark on your journey of self-competition, I encourage you to find ways to celebrate your progress, no matter how small it may seem. Keep a journal, share your victories with a friend, or simply take a moment each day to acknowledge how far you remember. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory worth celebrating. Now, as we delve deeper into this journey of self-competition, it becomes clear that we need to redefine what success means to us. In a world of external competition, success is often defined by achievements, accolades, and acquisitions. But when you're competing with yourself, success takes on a different meaning altogether. Success becomes about personal growth, about becoming a better version of yourself day by day. It's about aligning your actions with your values, about living with integrity and purpose. Success is about the journey, not the destination. This shift in perspective is incredibly liberating. It means that you can be successful every single day simply by showing up and giving your best effort. It means that success is not a finite resource, that your success doesn't diminish anyone else's. In fact, when you're truly focused on self-competition, your success can inspire and uplift others. Consider the story of David, a high school teacher who had always measured his success by how his students performed compared to those in other classes. He pushed his students hard, always with an eye on the test scores and rankings. But despite his efforts, David felt constantly stressed and unfulfilled. His students, feeling the pressure, became anxious and competitive with each other. Then, one day, David had an epiphany. He realized that true success in teaching wasn't about his students outperforming others, but about each student growing and improving. He shifted his focus from comparison to individual progress. He started celebrating each student's personal achievements, no matter how small. He encouraged his students to set personal goals and to measure their success by their own growth. The change in his classroom was remarkable. The atmosphere became more supportive and collaborative. Students who had previously given up started to engage, motivated by their own progress rather than intimidated by comparison. And surprisingly, as the students focused on their individual growth, their overall performance improved dramatically. David's redefinition of success not only made him a more effective teacher, but also reignited his passion for teaching. He found joy in witnessing each student's unique journey of growth and discovery. This is the power of redefining success in terms of personal growth and self-competition. So I ask you, how can you redefine success in your own life? What would it look like to measure your success, not by external markers, but by your own growth and alignment with your values? How might this shift in perspective change the way you approach your work, your relationships, your personal development? Remember, when you compete with yourself, success is not a destination you reach once and for all. It's a daily choice, a commitment to growth and self